She was 8 months pregnant when her husband tried to kill her. The brake lines were cut. The insurance policy was ready. The mistress was waiting. Blake Ashford had planned the perfect murder. His pregnant wife would die in a tragic accident on a mountain road. He'd collect $1 million and start fresh with his young lover. There was just one problem. Meredith survived. But instead of going to the police, she did something far more calculating. She let him think he'd won. Let him bury an empty casket. Let him spend the insurance money. Let him get comfortable. Because Meredith wasn't planning revenge. She was planning something much better. 2 years later, she walked into his boardroom. Powerful, and holding the majority shares of his company. This is the story of a woman who died to live, who turned attempted murder into a corporate takeover, who proved that the best way to defeat a man who tried to erase you is to become more successful than he ever was. This is Meredith's story, and it starts with cold water and the will to survive. Let's begin. The boardroom fell silent when she walked in. Blake Ashford looked up from the emergency meeting agenda. His hands froze mid-gesture. The air seemed to thicken around him. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Meredith Hartley stood in the doorway, steel gray suit, hair shorter than he remembered. Auburn waves now cut into a sleek bob. Green eyes that used to soften when they saw him now looked through him like glass. "Hello, Blake." Her voice was ice over stone. Surprise. Blake's lawyer cleared his throat. The sound echoed in the silent room. "Mr. Ashford, as I was explaining before Miss Hartley arrived, she is now the majority shareholder term of Ashford Technologies, 51% to be exact." "That's impossible," Blake's voice cracked. "She's dead. My wife is dead." "Ex-wife," the lawyer corrected. "Technically, Meredith Hartley never legally changed her name to Ashford. The marriage license was never properly filed." Meredith walked to the head of the table. Her heels clicked against the marble floor. Click, click, click. Each step measured, deliberate. She pulled out the chair at the head. His chair, the chair where he'd sat for 8 years building this company. She sat down. A man in his 40s entered behind her. Blake's stomach dropped. Grant Sullivan, his former board member who'd disappeared 14 months ago. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. "I believe you all know Mr. Sullivan," Meredith said. "My chief legal officer." Grant nodded to the room. His face showed nothing. He took the seat to Meredith's right. Another woman entered. Older, confident. Blake recognized her from business magazines. Victoria Hayes, venture capitalist, worth north of $200 million. "And this is Victoria Hayes," Meredith continued, "majority stakeholder of Hayes Ventures, the firm that funded my acquisition." Blake's world tilted sideways. The fluorescent lights seemed too bright. His collar felt too tight. He reached for his phone in his pocket, unlocked it, locked it, unlocked it again. His thumb moved automatically. Meredith's eyes tracked the movement. Something flickered across her face. Recognition, maybe, or memory. "Mary." Blake used her nickname, the one only he called her. "I don't understand. The accident? Your car went off the mountain road. They found the wreckage, the funeral. I buried you." "You mean you tried to kill me?" She smiled. The expression never reached her eyes. "And you mean you buried an empty casket?" The room seemed to tilt again. 3 board members exchanged glances. The lawyer shuffled papers. Someone coughed. "I think we should clear the room," Meredith said. "Except for the board members. We have a lot to discuss, starting with why Ashford Technologies is bankrupt." "We're not bankrupt," Blake protested. "We're facing temporary cash flow issues." "You're facing federal charges for embezzlement." Grant slid a folder across the table. 3 years of systematically stealing from your own company, covering it up with new investments. A classic Ponzi scheme. Blake's hands shook. He pulled the folder closer, opened it. Page after page of bank statements, wire transfers, shell corporations. His handwriting on several documents. "How did you get this evidence?" Meredith leaned forward. "Blake, the real question isn't how I got it. It's how long I've been planning this." The words hit him like cold water. 2 years. She'd been dead for 2 years. No, not dead. Alive. planning, watching, waiting. I don't believe this. Blake stood up. His chair scraped against the floor. This is fraud. Identity theft. You can't just sit down, Mr. Ashford. Victoria Hayes spoke for the first time. Her voice carried authority that made grown men flinch. Or would you prefer I call security? Your security, who are now employed by Miss Hartley. Blake sat. Meredith opened another folder. This one thicker, full of documents. She pulled out a single sheet, slid it across the polished wood toward Blake. This is the police report from my accident. Faulty brakes. Interesting, right? Because I just had the car serviced. Full brake replacement. 2 days before the accident. Car's malfunction, Blake said. His voice sounded weak even to his own ears. It was tragic, but accidents happen. Do they? Grant pulled out his own folder. This is your credit card statement. 3 days before the accident. Payment to Raymond's auto shop. $5,000, cash, no receipt. Blake's face drained of color. Raymond disappeared 2 weeks after the accident, Grant continued. Fled to Mexico. We found him 6 months ago. He's very talkative now, especially with federal immunity on the table. The fluorescent lights hummed. Someone's phone buzzed. The sound seemed deafening in the silence. You tried to kill me, Blake. Meredith's voice stayed level, calm, as if discussing the weather. You sabotaged my brakes. You insisted I take your car that day. You planned for me to go off the mountain road at that specific curve. You did all of this while I was 8 months pregnant with your child. Patricia Ashford gasped. Blake's mother sat in the corner, silent until now. Her hand flew to her mouth. Blake, tell me this isn't true. Patricia's voice shook. Tell me you didn't. It's not what it sounds like, Mother. Blake turned to her, desperate. She's twisting everything, making it sound like attempted murder. Meredith's voice cut through his protests. That's because it was attempted murder. You wanted me dead. You wanted the insurance money. You wanted your mistress. You wanted everything I represented erased. Mistress? Patricia stood up. What is she talking about? Sienna Frost, Grant said. He pulled up a video on the room's screen. Your son's executive assistant. They've been having an affair for 14 months before the accident. The screen showed Blake and Sienna, security footage from the office, timestamps from late nights, hotels, his apartment when Meredith was supposedly visiting her father. Everyone has affairs, Blake said. The words sounded hollow. That doesn't mean tried to kill anyone. Really? Meredith pulled out her phone, touched the screen. Blake's voice filled the room. The insurance policy pays out $1 million, maybe more with the accidental death clause. Once she's gone, we can be together. No messy divorce, no splitting assets. Clean, simple. Sienna's voice responded. What about the baby? Collateral damage. I never wanted kids anyway. She trapped me with that pregnancy. The recording continued, Blake's voice detailing the plan, the mechanic, the curve in the road. How long it would take for someone to find the wreckage. Each word another nail in a coffin he'd built himself. Patricia made a choking sound. She stared at her son, her face twisted with horror and disgust. Blake Ashford. Victoria Hayes stood. Her voice carried the weight of decades in boardrooms. The board votes to remove you as chief executive officer effective immediately. All in favor? 9 hands went up. Only Blake stayed down. Motion carries. Victoria turned to Meredith. Miss Hartley, congratulations. You are now the chief executive officer of what we'll be renaming Hartley Tech Solutions. Blake's phone buzzed. He looked down. Text from his lawyer. FBI waiting in lobby. Warrant for your arrest. He looked up at Meredith, really saw her now. The softness he'd married was gone. The woman who used to check her phone compulsively when he didn't text back. The woman who'd apologize for breathing too loud. That woman was dead. In her place sat someone new, someone harder, someone who'd survived him. Mary, please. He tried one last time. I'm sorry, whatever I did, however I hurt you. We can fix this. She stood, walked around the table, stopped next to his chair, looked down at him. The only thing that needs fixing, Blake, is you, and that's not my job anymore. That's the prison system's job. She turned to Grant. Call security. Have them escort Mr. Ashford to the federal agents downstairs. With pleasure, Grant replied. As security entered, Blake looked back at Meredith. She'd already turned away, already moved on to the next agenda item. He didn't exist to her anymore. The realization hit harder than any accusation. He was irrelevant. She found the texts on a Tuesday. Meredith stood in the bathroom, her belly swollen with 8 months of pregnancy. The baby kicked against her ribs, a reminder of the life growing inside her, the life she and Blake had created together. She smiled at her reflection. Tired eyes. Swollen ankles, but happy. So happy. Baby, can you check that? Blake called from the shower. Might be the contractor about the nursery. Meredith waddled to the bedroom, picked up his phone from the nightstand. The screen lit up automatically. No password. He'd never hidden anything from her before. The message preview made her blood stop. Sienna Frost. Miss you already, lover boy. Can't wait until she's gone and we can be together for real. The insurance money will set us up nice. 2 more months. Meredith's hands started shaking. The phone nearly slipped from her grip. She caught it, unlocked it. Her fingerprint worked. He'd added her fingerprint months ago, back when they'd shared everything. She scrolled back through the messages, weeks of them, months, plans laid out in casual text conversations like they were discussing grocery lists. Make it look like an accident. Faulty brakes are hard to prove. That curve on the mountain road. Perfect drop. Deep water. What about the baby? Problem solves itself. Meredith sat on the bed. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. The shower turned off. She heard Blake humming. He was humming. Planning her murder while humming in the shower. She set the phone back on the nightstand. Screen down, exactly where he'd left it. Her hands moved on autopilot, smoothing the comforter, adjusting the pillows, making everything look normal. The bathroom door opened. Steam rolled out. Blake emerged wrapped in a towel. Water dripped from his dark hair. He smiled at her. The same smile that had made her say yes when he proposed. The same smile she'd trusted for 5 years. Everything okay, babe? He asked. Fine. The word came out steady. She marveled at that. Her voice worked when her brain had stopped. Contractor can come Friday. Perfect. He kissed her forehead. Casual, comfortable. The kiss of a man who loved his wife, or the kiss of a man who'd practiced lying. I've got to run to the office. Board meeting. Probably late. Okay, she said. He dressed, left. The front door closed. His car started. Drove away. Meredith sat on the bed for 20 minutes, staring at the wall. The baby kicked, harder this time, as if sensing her mother's distress. I know, baby girl, she whispered, hands on her belly. Mama's going to keep us safe, I promise. She stood, walked downstairs, started cleaning, scrubbing the kitchen counters until they gleamed, reorganizing the pantry, alphabetizing the spices. Her hands needed to move, needed to do something normal while her mind raced. The panic cleaning. She recognized it now. How many times had she done this? Scrubbed away anxiety when Blake came home late, polished worry into the floors when he snapped at her for asking questions, made everything perfect on the outside to hide the cracks forming inside. But this wasn't anxiety. This was terror. She pulled out her phone, called the one person she'd always been able to count on. Caro, I need you to come over. Right now. Don't tell anyone, please. Carolyn Bennett arrived 30 minutes later. Meredith's college roommate, best friend for 12 years, trauma nurse at City Hospital. If anyone would know what to do, it was Caro. Meredith showed her the texts. Caro's face went white, then red, then white again. We call the police. Right now, this is premeditated murder. No, Meredith shook her head. The police take time, investigations, warrants, trials. He knows I found the text. He'll know I unlocked his phone. He'll move up his timeline. Then what? I need to disappear, but I need him to think his plan worked. I need to die without actually dying. Caro stared at her. That's insane. Was it? Meredith pulled up the text again. Look at the dates. He's planning to do this in 2 weeks, right before the baby is due. Clean. Simple. His words. If I run, he'll find me. If I go to the police and they can't hold him, he'll finish what he started. The only way I serve is if he thinks I'm already dead. Mer, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. Meredith heard her voice crack. The signs were all there. The late nights, the distance, the way he flinched when I touched him. I ignored them because I wanted to believe in us more than I believed in myself. Carol grabbed her hands. Okay, let me think. They spent 3 hours planning. Caro knew the mountain road. She'd done wilderness first aid training in that area. She knew where the guardrail was weakest, where the river was deepest but survivable, where she could position herself to help. You'll aim for the section just past the big curve, Caro said. She drew it out on paper. The river there is deep, 40 feet, cold but survivable if you don't stay in long. I'll be waiting downstream with emergency gear, wetsuit, thermal blanket, medical supplies. He'll track my phone, Meredith said. Leave it in the car. Let it sink with the wreckage. He'll want a body. The river moves fast. Bodies wash up miles downstream. Sometimes never found. Happens all the time. They refined the plan, every detail, every contingency, what Meredith would wear, how she'd breathe before impact, the exact angle to aim for, how long to wait before surfacing, where Caro would hide her after. My father, Meredith said suddenly, he's a retired cop. He'll know I'm not dead. Can you trust him? Meredith thought about Douglas Hartley, stern, protective, the man who'd taught her to question everything, to trust her instincts, to survive. Yes, but I can't tell him yet, not until after. If he knows beforehand, he'll try to stop me. The next 2 weeks crawled by. Meredith pretended everything was normal. She smiled at Blake, planned the nursery, discussed baby names, all while memorizing exit routes, practicing holding her breath, studying the river's current patterns online. Blake insisted on final details 3 days before the planned trip. Take my car to visit your dad, he said. Mine has better safety features. For the baby. She agreed, smiled, thanked him for being so thoughtful. That night, she lay next to him in bed, felt his breathing slow into sleep, thought about all the nights she'd lain here, trusting him, loving him, building a life together. All of it was a lie. The baby kicked, strong now, ready to be born, ready to meet a father who'd planned to kill them both. Not if I have anything to say about it, Meredith whispered to her belly. We're going to survive this, baby girl. And then now we're going to do more than survive. We're going to win. The present-day board meeting continued. Blake slumped in his chair. Security guards flanked the door. Federal agents waited downstairs. The walls were closing in. I don't understand. Patricia Ashford looked at her son, looked at Meredith, back to her son. If you're alive, Meredith, why didn't you come forward? Why let everyone believe you were dead? Meredith turned to the older woman. Patricia had always been kind to her, overbearing sometimes, but kind. She deserved the truth. Because I needed Blake to believe he'd won, Meredith said. I needed him comfortable, confident, making mistakes. If I'd come forward immediately, he would have had time to cover his tracks, destroy evidence, manufacture alibis. But 2 years, Patricia's voice broke. 2 years was what I needed to build a case that couldn't be broken, to gather evidence that couldn't be dismissed, to become strong enough that he could never hurt me again. Grant pulled up another file on the screen. The police report from the accident, photos of the wrecked car, the guardrail bent and broken, the dark water below. The official report says brake failure, Grant explained. Weather conditions normal, no alcohol involved, tragic accident, case closed. But I just had the car serviced, Meredith said. Full inspection, new brake pads. The mechanic remembered me because I joked about pregnancy brain. Asked him to double-check everything twice. Blake's lawyer spoke up. Miss Hartley, are you claiming? I'm not claiming anything, Meredith interrupted. I'm stating facts. Blake paid Raymond's auto shop $5,000 in cash 3 days before the accident. Raymond disappeared 2 weeks later. We found him in Mexico last year. He's given a full confession in exchange for immunity. The screen changed. Video deposition. A nervous man in his 50s, tattoos on his forearms. Raymond. Yeah, I did it. Raymond's recorded voice filled the room. Guy paid me $5 grand to mess with the brake line, said it was a prank on his brother. I needed the money. Didn't ask questions. Blake lunged forward. That's fabricated. You can't. Sit down, Grant said quietly. Or security will help you sit down. Blake sat. Meredith closed her eyes, remembered that night. The night that changed everything. 2 years earlier, the car smelled new. Blake had bought it 6 months ago. Leather seats, all the upgrades, safety features he'd listed off proudly. Airbags everywhere, collision detection, anti-lock brakes. Except the brakes weren't going to work. Meredith drove carefully, testing them every few miles, feeling for the failure point. She found it around mile marker 32. The pedal went soft, mushy. Another mile and they'd be gone completely. The curve approached. The big one Blake had mentioned in his text, the one with the 40-foot drop to the river below. Caro's voice echoed in her memory. Aim for the weakest section of guardrail, right side, about 10 feet past the curve apex. The water there is deepest. Meredith's hands tightened on the wheel. Her baby kicked, hard, as if protesting what was about to happen. Sorry, baby girl, she whispered. Mama's going to do something crazy to keep us safe. She pressed the brake pedal, nothing. Just soft resistance. No grip, no stop. The curve came faster. She'd practiced this in her mind 1,000 times, knew exactly when to turn, when to aim, when to jump. The guardrail rushed closer, metal screaming against metal. The car punched through, airborne for 2 heartbeats. Time slowed. Meredith saw everything with crystal clarity. The river below, dark and churning, the moon reflecting off the water, the airbag deploying, slamming into her chest, protecting her belly, the nose of the car tilting down, pointing toward the water like a diving bird. She reached for the door handle, pulled. The door swung open. Air rushed in, cold and sharp. The water hit like concrete. Meredith held her breath, pushed away from the sinking car. Her coat tangled in the seatbelt. She fought it, ripped free. Her lungs burned. The baby kicked frantically, protesting the cold. The pressure? Up. She needed up. She kicked, pushed toward the lighter water above. Her head broke the surface. She gasped, choked, swallowed river water and air in equal measure. The current grabbed her, pulled her downstream, away from the sinking car, away from the road, toward where Caro waited. Meredith let it take her, conserved her strength, held her belly with both hands, protected her daughter through force of will alone. A light flashed downstream, once, twice, Caro's signal. Meredith angled toward it. The current helped, pushed her toward the bank, toward safety, toward survival. Hands grabbed her, strong and sure. Caro pulled her onto the rocky shore, wrapped her in a thermal blanket, checked her pulse, her pupils, felt her belly for the baby's movement. I'm okay, Meredith gasped. We're okay. You're hypothermic, Caro said. Clinical now, all business. We need to get you warm, fast. They moved to Caro's car, hidden in the trees. Heat blasted from the vents, more blankets. Hot water bottles, a change of clothes. Behind them, the river gurgled. Meredith's phone sank with the car. Blake would track it, would see it go offline at the moment of impact, would believe his plan had worked. The hard part starts now, Caro said. We have to disappear you. Meredith sat in the car, warming slowly, feeling her baby move, still alive, still fighting. She looked at her reflection in the side mirror, wet hair, pale face, scared eyes, but alive. Surviving wasn't enough, though. She needed to become a ghost so she could haunt him. The next day, Blake identified the car, told police his pregnant wife had been driving to visit her father. Tragic accident, faulty brakes. He played the devastated husband perfectly. The search teams looked for 3 days, found nothing. The river had carried her away, or so everyone believed. Blake held a funeral the following week. Closed casket, nothing to bury. Just an empty box and a grieving husband and a room full of people who believed his lies. Meredith watched from afar. Caro drove her past the cemetery, let her see the crowd, the flowers, Blake in black, Sienna standing supportively behind him, playing the concerned coworker. He's good at this, Meredith said. Sociopaths usually are, Caro replied. They drove to Caro's basement apartment. Small, hidden, safe. Meredith looked around her new prison, her new sanctuary. Her hand rested on her belly. The baby kicked. He doesn't get to take anything more from us, Meredith said, her voice steadier now, stronger. Not one more day. The weeks after the funeral blurred together. Blake played his part flawlessly. Devastated widower, tragic loss. He gave interviews to local news, spoke about brake safety, started a memorial fund in Meredith's name. The insurance company investigated, found no reason to deny the claim. Accidental death. $1 million paid out within 60 days. Blake deposited the check, paid off the house, expanded the company, took Sienna to dinner at expensive restaurants. He didn't hide her anymore. The appropriate mourning period had passed. Life moved on. Meanwhile, Meredith existed in shadows. Caro's basement apartment. One room, bathroom with a shower, kitchenette with a hot plate, one window that looked out at ground level, people's feet walking by, never their faces. I can't go to a hospital, Meredith said. She was 8.5 months pregnant now. The baby would come soon, any day. He'll find out. He'll know. I know, Caro said. She'd brought medical supplies from the hospital. Everything they'd need for a home birth. We'll do it here, together. What if something goes wrong? Then we call 911 and deal with the consequences. But nothing's going to go wrong. You're healthy. The baby's healthy. Your blood pressure is good. No complications. Except the part where I'm legally dead and giving birth in a basement. Caro smiled. Sad but real. Except that part, yes. Meredith spent the days preparing, reading birth stories online, practicing breathing techniques, timing contractions that turned out to be false alarms. She couldn't leave the apartment. Too risky. Someone might recognize her. Her father came on day 18. Douglas Hartley stood in the doorway. Gray hair, weathered face, eyes that had seen 30 years of police work, eyes that saw through lies like windows. He looked at his daughter, alive, pregnant, hiding. I knew you weren't dead, he said quietly. Found your car in the river. No blood, no tissue. Clean escape. I kept my mouth shut. Figured you had your reasons. Meredith started crying, first time since the accident. She'd been too scared to cry, too focused on survival, but seeing her father broke something open. Douglas held her, let her sob against his shoulder, stroked her hair like he'd done when she was small. Tell me everything, he said. She did, showed him the text she'd saved, the evidence she'd gathered, the plan Blake had made, the reason she'd had to die. Douglas listened, his jaw tightened with each revelation. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. I'll help, he finally said. Whatever you need, new identity, papers, whatever it takes. I need to disappear completely, Meredith said, until I'm strong enough to fight back. Then we'll make you disappear. The contractions started 3 nights later. Real ones this time. Meredith woke at 2 a.m, water breaking, mine radiating through her back. The baby was coming. Caro moved with practiced efficiency, spread plastic sheeting, laid out towels, checked dilation, timed contractions. You're at 5 centimeters, Caro said. Still got a ways to go. Try to rest between contractions. Rest. Right, Meredith laughed. The sound came out broken. Desperate. She was giving birth in a basement, legally dead, hiding from the man who tried to kill her. Rest seemed like a distant concept from another life. The hours blurred. Pain became everything. The world narrowed to contractions and breathing, and Caro's steady voice guiding her through. Push, Mare, you're doing great. Almost there. One more push, then another, then a sound that made everything else disappear. A baby crying. Meredith's daughter, red-faced, angry at the world. Perfect. Emma, Meredith whispered. She'd chosen the name weeks ago. Emma Grace Hartley. Not Ashford, never Ashford. Her name is Emma. Caro placed the baby on Meredith's chest, skin to skin, mother and daughter, Both survivors. Meredith looked down at Emma. Tiny fists, dark hair, eyes that would probably be green like hers. This small person, this perfect person. She'd almost lost her. Blake had almost taken her. Starting over felt impossible, but staying dead felt worse. For Emma, she had to become someone new. Douglas handled the paperwork. Birth certificate under Meredith Hartley. Father listed as unknown. No connection to Blake Ashford. No connection to anyone who might link them together. The first weeks were brutal. Emma cried. Meredith cried. Sleep became a memory. But slowly they found a rhythm. Feeding every 2 hours. Diaper changes. Tiny baby sounds that filled the basement apartment. Meredith's body healed. The pregnancy weight dropped. She bought hair dye, cut her hair short, got glasses she didn't need, changed her appearance bit by bit. The woman in the mirror looked different, harder, older. Not the soft girl Blake had married. Good. One night, Emma finally asleep after hours of fussing, Meredith sat at Caro's laptop. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. She typed slowly, searching, how to start a corporation, corporate hostile takeover strategies, venture capital funding for startups. 3 in the morning. Cold pizza from yesterday's dinner. Baby monitor next to the keyboard showing Emma's sleeping face. This was her life now. Student and mother and ghost. She clicked link after link, absorbed information like water, business structure, stock purchases, shell corporations, legal loopholes, ways to hide ownership, ways to build power without showing your face. Blake had given her 2 gifts with his attempt to murder her, time and motivation. He thought she was gone. He'd moved on. That meant he wasn't looking over his shoulder, wasn't covering his tracks carefully. He'd already won in his mind. Winners got sloppy, and sloppy men left trails. Meredith opened a notebook, started writing names of Blake's business partners, investors, board members, anyone who might be unhappy with his leadership, anyone who might be looking for an alternative. The baby monitor showed Emma stirring, a small sound, not crying yet but building toward it. Meredith saved her research, closed the laptop, went to her daughter. "Mama's here, baby girl," she whispered, picking up Emma, the weight of her solid and real. "Mama's here, and Mama's going to make sure no one ever hurts you, no one ever makes you disappear. We're going to be okay, better than okay." Emma settled against her chest, found her rhythm, breathing in sync with her mother. Outside the basement window, feet walked by, going to work, to school, to normal lives, lives where women weren't legally dead, where babies knew their fathers, where safety wasn't something you had to fight for. But Meredith didn't want normal anymore. Normal had almost killed her. Normal had hidden a monster behind a smile. She wanted justice. She wanted power. She wanted Blake to know what it felt like to have everything taken away. And sitting in that basement at 3 in the morning, holding her sleeping daughter, eating cold pizza, while researching corporate law, Meredith Hartley began planning exactly how to make that happen. 6 months after Emma's birth, Victoria Hayes walked into Caro's apartment unannounced. Meredith was on the floor doing tummy time with Emma. The baby had just discovered she could lift her head. Each tiny achievement felt monumental. "You must be Meredith," Victoria said. She was tall, 50s, gray hair cut sharp, expensive suit, the kind of woman who'd spent decades in boardrooms making men uncomfortable. "My niece tells me you're interested in corporate revenge." Meredith sat up, protective instinct flaring. Emma gurgled happily on the mat. "Caro talked to you?" I asked her why she'd been buying business books. She told me about a friend who needed help. I connected the dots. Victoria sat in the only chair, crossed her legs. "I made my fortune buying failing companies and turning them around. Before that, I escaped a marriage to a man who thought his fists made good arguments. So when Caro mentioned a pregnant woman faking her death to escape her husband, I paid attention." "I don't need charity," Meredith said. "Good, I don't give charity. I make investments, and I think you'd be an excellent investment." Over the next 2 hours, Victoria laid out her proposal. Seed money, business training, connections to lawyers and accountants who specialized in hostile takeovers. Everything Meredith needed to build something from nothing. "In exchange," Victoria said, I want 20% equity in whatever company you build. And I want to watch Blake Ashford lose everything. My ex-husband got away clean, but maybe yours doesn't have to. He's not my husband, Meredith corrected. The marriage was never filed legally. I checked. We were never married. Even better, Victoria smiled. Means you don't need a divorce, just vengeance. They shook hands. The work began in earnest. Meredith spent Emma's nap time studying business law, corporate structure, investment strategies. Victoria sent books, arranged video calls with experts, treated Meredith like a graduate student in a program that only had one final exam. Destroy Blake Ashford's company and take it for yourself. The first challenge was money. Victoria provided $50,000 seed capital, not charity, an investment that required returns. Meredith used it to hire a forensic accountant, someone who could dig into Blake's business records, find the cracks. The accountant came back 3 weeks later, excited in that quiet way numbers people get excited. He's cooking the books, the accountant said. Spreadsheets filled the laptop screen. Small amounts at first, 5,000 here, 10,000 there. But it's been going on for years. He's built a house of cards. New investments covering old losses. Classic Ponzi scheme structure. How long until it collapses, Meredith asked. 2 years, maybe 3. Depends on how long he can keep attracting new investors. Can you document everything? I already am. Meredith smiled. First real smile in months. She began buying stock in Ashford Technologies, not in her name. In the names of shell corporations Victoria helped her establish, small amounts, 5 shares here, 20 shares there, nothing that would trigger alarms, nothing that would make Blake look twice. Her days developed a rhythm. Wake with Emma at 6, feed her, play, put her down for a nap, research stock purchases while Emma slept, feed her again, more play, another nap, more research, bedtime routine. Then the real work began. She'd find herself at 3 in the morning, Emma asleep in her crib next to the desk, laptop glowing, cold coffee in a chipped mug, humming softly without realizing it. Old lullabies her mother used to sing. The humming surprised her one night. She stopped, listened to the silence, realized something had changed. She felt joy again, small, tentative, but real. Joy in Emma's laugh, joy in a successful stock purchase. Joy in watching Blake's quarterly reports show weakening numbers. Joy in building something from nothing. Year 1 passed. Meredith owned 15% of Ashford Technologies through various shell companies. Blake didn't notice. Why would he? His company was thriving on paper. New contracts, expanding office space, everything looked successful. But Meredith saw the reality. The accountant showed her each new contract funded by money from the last contract. Each expansion paid for with embezzled funds. The facade was beautiful. The foundation was rot. Grant Sullivan appeared in year 2. He came recommended by Victoria, former board member at Ashford Technologies. Resigned abruptly 8 months earlier. Wouldn't say why, but Victoria trusted him. I discovered Blake was stealing, Grant said in their first meeting. Emma was one now, walking, getting into everything. Grant watched her toddle around with a soft smile. I tried to report it to the board. He threatened me, said he'd destroy my career. I resigned instead. Coward's way out. But you documented everything? Meredith asked. Every transaction, every meeting, every lie. I've been building a case against him for 2 years, but I need someone with enough shares to force an audit, someone the board will listen to. How many shares? 38% would be enough to demand transparency. 51 would let you force anything you want. Meredith did the math in her head. 15% now, 23 more to reach the threshold. Another 13 to hit majority control. Doable, expensive but doable. Give me 18 months, she said. I'll wait, Grant replied. The purchasing intensified. Meredith leveraged everything. Victoria brought in more investors, people who hated Blake, people he'd screwed over, people who wanted to see him fail. They bought shares through Meredith's shell companies, small amounts, untraceable, patient. Emma turned 2, started talking. Full sentences. Meredith caught herself one afternoon. Emma was playing with blocks. Meredith was reviewing stock reports. Emma knocked over her tower, laughed. That pure joy only toddlers have. Meredith laughed with her. Real, genuine, not forced, not fake. She was happy, actually happy, not revenge happy, not justice happy, just happy. Blake had tried to erase her, but in the erasing, he'd freed her from a marriage that was killing her slowly, freed her from being small and apologetic, freed her from needing him. The irony was beautiful. One night, Emma asleep, Meredith made her final calculations. 38% achieved, enough to force an audit, enough to expose Blake's crimes. She could stop here, hand it to the authorities, watch him go to prison. But that wasn't enough. She kept buying, month by month, share by share. The shell companies grew, the percentage climbed, 40%, 45, 50. Blake's accountant finally noticed. Sent him a report. Mystery buyer. Someone's been accumulating shares. Can't trace the ownership. Recommend investigation. Blake panicked. Tried to buy shares himself. Drive up the price. Make it too expensive for the mystery buyer to continue. But he'd spent his liquid cash on Sienna, on the lifestyle he wanted, on maintaining the facade of success. He didn't have the capital to fight back. The percentage collect over 51%. Meredith Hartley owned the majority of Ashford Technologies. She called Grant. Schedule an emergency board meeting. Tell them we're facing bankruptcy. Tell them the mystery buyer wants to reveal themselves. Tell them Blake Ashford's reign is over. Grant was quiet for a moment. Are you sure you're ready for this? Meredith looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully, safe, loved, protected. I've been ready since the moment I jumped into that river. The day she signed the final papers making her majority owner, Emma took her first steps. Meredith was reviewing documents on the couch. Emma pulled herself up on the coffee table. Let go. Stepped once, twice, 3 times. Fell into her mother's arms giggling. You did it, baby girl. Meredith hugged her daughter tight. We both did it. They were both walking away from the past, one step at a time. That night, Meredith couldn't sleep. She baked her mother's chocolate chip cookie recipe at 2 in the morning. Emma asleep in the bouncer nearby. The kitchen smelled of butter and brown sugar, vanilla extract, the oven's warmth. She measured and mixed and baked. Muscle memory from childhood. Comfort in flour and sugar. The cookies came out perfect. Golden brown edges, soft centers. She ate one still warm, tasted like home, like safety, like the woman she used to be before Blake tried to kill her. But she wasn't that woman anymore. She was someone new, someone stronger. Someone who baked cookies at 2 in the morning after acquiring 51% of her would-be murderer's company. She was someone unstoppable. And tomorrow, Blake would find out exactly what that meant. The board meeting had been going for 90 minutes. Blake's face had gone from pale to red to pale again. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air conditioning. His lawyer kept whispering in his ear, advice no one could hear. Meredith watched him fall apart, felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just cold observation, like watching a stranger unravel. Even if everything you are saying is true, Blake said. His voice had taken on a desperate edge. Even if I made mistakes, we can fix this. The company can recover. You don't have to destroy everything I built. Everything you built? Meredith leaned forward. Let's talk about what you actually built, Blake. Grant pulled up a new presentation. Numbers filled the screen, dates, transactions, a financial history spanning 5 years. This is your company's actual state, Grant said. Not the numbers you report to investors, the real numbers. Debt, embezzlement, fraud. You've stolen $4.2 million from Ashford Technologies over 5 years. The board members gasped. Several pulled out phones, started texting. Lawyers probably, or other board members who'd skipped today's meeting. 4.2 million, Meredith repeated. That's not mistakes, that's systematic theft. I was going to pay it back, Blake protested. With what money? The insurance payout from my death? Meredith's voice stayed level, calm. But underneath, rage simmered. She fed it, controlled it, let it sharpen her words. Mom. Oh, wait, you already spent that, didn't you? New house for Sienna, luxury vacation to Bali, that boat you bought 3 months after my funeral. Tell me, Blake, did you name it after me? Or was that too much pretense even for you? Blake's lawyer put a hand on his arm. Don't answer that. Smart advice, Victoria said. Unfortunately for your client, we don't need his answers. We have bank statements, credit card records, receipts. The FBI has been building a case for 6 months. FBI? Blake stood up. His chair fell backward, clattered against the floor. You've been working with the FBI? Actually, a new voice said from the doorway, the FBI has been working with them. 2 agents entered, badges displayed, professional, efficient, the kind of people who had arrested hundreds of white-collar criminals. Blake Ashford, the lead agent said, we have a warrant for your arrest. Charges include attempted murder, embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. This is insane. Blake looked at his mother, at the board members, at anyone who might help. Mother, tell them. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding. Patricia Ashford stood. She'd been silent for the past hour, watching, listening, absorbing. The woman who'd defended her son through every mistake, every poor choice, every red flag. She walked toward Blake. For a moment he looked hopeful, like she might save him one more time. She slapped him, hard. The sound echoed through the boardroom. You tried to kill your wife, Patricia said. Her voice shook with fury and grief. Your pregnant wife, my grandchild. How could you? What kind of monster did I raise? It wasn't supposed to happen like this, Blake said. She was supposed to die. Meredith stood, walked to where Blake stood. They were 3 feet apart, close enough to see every detail. The sweat, the fear, the realization. I was supposed to die quietly, disappear, stop being inconvenient. Is that it? Blake met her eyes, really looked at her for the first time since she'd walked in, saw the woman she'd become, the hardness, the power, the absolute certainty that she'd won. You were supposed to love me, he said quietly. The words hung in the air, honest for once, maybe the only honest thing he'd said all day. I did love you, Meredith replied. That's what makes this so much worse. I loved you. I trusted you. I built my life around you. And you threw it all away. For what? Money? Freedom? Sienna? For myself. Blake's shoulders slumped. I wanted my life back. Before the marriage. Before the responsibilities. Before having to consider anyone else. Then you should have divorced me. You would have taken half. I couldn't afford that. So murder was cheaper? Meredith shook her head. The irony is beautiful, Blake. If you'd divorced me, I would have taken half, maybe $3 million. Instead, you tried to kill me, and now I'm taking everything. The company, your reputation, your freedom, all of it. The agent stepped forward, handcuffs out. Wait, Blake turned to Meredith one more time. Was the baby okay during the accident? Meredith felt something twist in her chest. Not sympathy, not quite, but something. The recognition that part of him, however small, had wondered, had maybe even cared. Her name is Emma, Meredith said. Emma Grace Hartley. She's 2 years old. Perfect, healthy, happy, safe. Everything you tried to destroy, but couldn't. Can I? Blake's voice cracked. Can I meet her? No. The word was absolute, final. You signed away any right to her when you cut those brake lines, when you planned our deaths like a business transaction, when you chose murder over honesty. No, you don't get to meet her. You don't get to know her. You don't get anything. The agents cuffed him, read him his rights. Professional, efficient. They'd done this 1,000 times. One more criminal, one more arrest, just another day. Blake looked back as they let him out, not at his mother, not at the board members, at Meredith. She stared back, unwavering, unforgiving, the woman he'd tried to kill, the woman he'd underestimated, the woman who'd won. The doors closed behind him. Silence filled the boardroom. Meredith realized she was still wearing the wedding ring. The one she died wearing. She put it on a chain around her neck that morning. Not as sentiment, as evidence, as a reminder. She touched it now, felt the metal under her fingers, cold and real. Patricia approached slowly. The baby, Emma, is she really okay? She's perfect, Meredith said. Could I? Patricia's voice broke. Could I possibly meet her someday? I know I have no right to ask. I raised him, failed him somehow, but she's my granddaughter, the only grandchild I'll ever have, and I thought she was dead. I mourned her. If I could just see her once. Meredith looked at the older woman, saw genuine grief, genuine regret. Patricia hadn't tried to kill anyone. She'd loved her son, defended him too long, yes, but that was the crime of loving blindly, not maliciously. I'll think about it, Meredith said. Not a yes, not a no, just possibility. Patricia nodded, accepted it more than she'd hoped for, probably. The board meeting continued, official votes, transfers of power. Meredith Hartley became CEO of what they were renaming Hartley Tech Solutions. Grant Sullivan became COO. Victoria Hayes joined the board of directors. The company Blake had built through theft and lies would become something new, something better, something that employed people honestly, paid investors fairly, operated within the law. The meeting adjourned 3 hours after it began. People filed out, shaking hands, making calls, processing what had happened. The day Blake Ashford's empire fell, Meredith stood alone in the empty boardroom, looked out the window at the city below, people moving through their lives, unaware of the small revolution that had just occurred on the 42nd floor. Her phone buzzed. Text from Caro. Emma wants to know when Mama's coming home. She picked out a book for bedtime. Home. The word felt different now. Not Caro's basement anymore. Meredith had moved into a small apartment 6 months ago. 2 bedrooms, actual windows, her own space. Not much but hers. The hardest part wasn't surviving the crash or giving birth alone, she'd told Caro last week. It was admitting I'd known for months something was wrong, that I'd been too afraid to trust my own instincts. But she trusted them now, and her instincts said she'd done what she needed to do. Blake was going to prison. Emma was safe. The company would be cleaned up and made legitimate. Justice, not revenge. There was a difference where I go. Meredith left the boardroom, took the elevator down 42 floors, walked out into the afternoon sun. Her car waited in visitor parking. Modest sedan, nothing fancy, nothing. She wasn't about displays of wealth. She drove to her apartment, took the same mountain road where she'd died. The curve looked different now. Less scary, just a bend in the road. The guardrail had been replaced, new and strong, no sign of what had happened. But Meredith remembered, would always remember. The cold water, the fear, the choice to survive. She'd made that choice, and now she got to live with the consequences. The good ones. Emma waiting at home. A company to rebuild. A future that belonged to her alone. Blake had tried to erase her, but you can't erase someone who refuses to disappear. And Meredith Hartley had never been very good at doing what she was told. The FBI arrested Blake in the lobby. Camera phones captured everything. By evening, it was all over the news. Tech CEO arrested for attempted murder. The headlines wrote themselves. Meredith watched the coverage from her apartment. Emma played with blocks on the floor, building towers, knocking them down, giggling at the crash, innocent, unaware of the chaos her father had created. Caro sat on the couch next to Meredith. How do you feel? Empty, Meredith admitted. I thought I'd feel satisfaction, or vindication, or something. But there's just nothing. That's normal, Caro said. You've been running on anger and fear for 2 years. Now the threat's neutralized. Your body doesn't know how to process safety yet. Is this what safety feels like? Empty? Give it time. The feelings will come. The phone rang. Grant. We need to meet. Sienna Frost wants to talk. Sienna, the other woman, the mistress, the one who'd helped Blake plan Meredith's murder. Rage flickered, small but real. Okay, so she could still feel something. Where? Meredith asked. Neutral ground, coffee shop on 5th and Main, tomorrow at 10? I'll be there. The coffee shop was crowded, morning rush, business people grabbing lattes before work. students studying for exams, normal life happening all around. Sienna sat in the corner. She looked different than in the security footage. Smaller, younger, scared. 26 years old, but could pass for 22. Blake had liked them young and insecure, easier to control. Meredith sat across from her, waited, said nothing. "I don't expect you to forgive me," Sienna started. Her voice shook. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for my part in all of it." "Your part?" Meredith kept her voice level. "You helped him plan to kill me. You knew I was pregnant. You knew he was sabotaging my car. You knew and you said nothing." "I didn't know about the car," Sienna said quickly. "I swear, I knew about the affair. I knew he wanted you gone, but I didn't know he was actually going to—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "I thought he was just venting, complaining about his marriage like men do. I didn't know he meant it literally until after the accident. And then I was terrified. I realized I'd been texting about murder. Actual murder. My messages were evidence. If I came forward, I'd go to prison. So I kept quiet, played the supportive coworker, pretended not to know." "You let him collect insurance money on my death." "Yes." "You let him throw a funeral where people mourned me." "Yes." "You moved into the house we'd shared while my body was supposedly rotting in a river." "Yes." Tears ran down Sienna's face. "I did all of that. I'm a terrible person. I know that. But I was also 24 years old. Stupid. In love with a man who lied about everything. He told me you were controlling, that you trapped him with a pregnancy, that you were making his life miserable. I believed him. I wanted to believe him because believing him meant I wasn't the villain." Meredith studied her, saw genuine remorse, but also saw the truth. Sienna had been complicit, maybe not in the planning, but in the cover-up, in the lies, in letting Blake get away with it. "Why come forward now?" Meredith asked. "Because he tried to do it to me too." Sienna laughed, bitter, harsh. "When the FBI started investigating, Blake panicked, told me if anyone found out, he'd say I planned everything, that I was the one who paid the mechanic, that I was obsessed with him and framed him. He was going to throw me under the bus to save himself." "So you threw him first." "I gave the FBI everything, recordings, texts, bank statements. I wore a wire for 6 months. Got him admitting to the embezzlement, the murder plot, all of it. Not because I'm a good person, because I'm a survivor. And I recognized the signs. He was going to make me disappear next." The honesty was refreshing. Brutal, but refreshing. "I understand what it's like to love someone who sees you as disposable," Meredith said slowly. "Blake made me feel like I was the problem. Like asking questions made me controlling. Like having needs made me needy. I spent years apologizing for existing. So yes, I understand how he manipulated you, but understanding doesn't mean forgiveness." "I know." Sienna wiped her eyes. "The FBI offered me immunity, full immunity. In exchange for my testimony, I took it. Not because I deserve it, but because I want to live. I want a chance to be better, to not be the woman who helped murder a pregnant mother." "You're going to have to live with what you did," Meredith said. "Every day, for the rest of your life. That guilt you're feeling? Good, keep it. Let it remind you to make better choices." "I will." Sienna stood. "Thank you for meeting with me. You didn't have to." "No, I didn't, but I needed to see you, needed to understand why. Now I do. You were another victim of Blake's manipulation, but you also had choices, and you chose wrong. Learn from it." Sienna nodded, left, disappeared into the crowd of morning coffee drinkers. Meredith sat alone with her latte, thought about young women and bad choices, about herself at 24. Would she have been smarter? Or would she have also believed a charming man's lies? She'd never know. Her path had been different. That evening, Meredith reorganized her entire office. 2 in the morning. Emma asleep in her room. Meredith moving files, sorting papers, arranging pens in perfect lines. The same coping mechanism she'd had in her marriage. Reorganize when overwhelmed. Control small things when big things felt out of control. But this time felt different. In the marriage, she'd been trying to make everything perfect to avoid Blake's anger. Now she was choosing to organize, choosing the ritual on her terms, reclaiming it, not his trigger anymore. Her choice. The next morning, Grant called with an update. Blake's lawyer is trying for a plea deal, reduced sentence in exchange for guilty plea, wants to avoid trial. What does the prosecutor say? They're considering it. Trial could take years, cost millions. Guilty plea means guaranteed conviction, but lighter sentence, maybe 15 years instead of 30. Meredith thought about it. 15 years. Blake would be 49 when he got out. Still young enough to rebuild. Start over. Live a life. Reject it, she said. Full trial, maximum sentence. He tried to kill me and Emma. He doesn't get the easy way out. The prosecutor might overrule. Then I'll give victim impact statements. Press interviews. Make it a nightmare for them to accept a plea. Blake gets his day in court, and I get to watch him lose in front of everyone. Grant was quiet. Okay, I'll tell them. The trial was set for 6 months out. Blake made bail, his mother's house as collateral. $2 million cash. He'd hidden money offshore, accounts in the Cayman Islands, Singapore. The forensic accountants were still finding it. Blake moved back home with Patricia, ankle monitor, house arrest, waiting for trial, waiting to see if his expensive lawyers could work miracles. They couldn't. The evidence was overwhelming. Recordings, bank statements, witness testimony, Raymond the mechanic, Sienna, Grant. Even Patricia eventually testified, told the court about suspicious conversations, times Blake had asked about life insurance policies, questions that seemed innocent at the time but looked sinister in hindsight. The prosecution called Meredith to the stand. She'd prepared for weeks, practiced her testimony, remained calm, factual. Let the facts speak for themselves. Miss Hartley, the prosecutor asked, can you tell the court what happened the night of October 15th? My husband attempted to murder me, Meredith said, clearly, steadily, looking at the jury. He sabotaged my brakes, planned for me to crash on a mountain road, collected insurance money when everyone thought I'd died, all while I was 8 months pregnant with his child. She told them everything, the texts, the plan, the escape, the fear, living in hiding with a newborn, rebuilding from nothing. Blake's lawyer tried to attack her credibility. Isn't it true you committed fraud, faked your own death, filed a false birth certificate? I survived an attempted murder, Meredith corrected. Faking my death wasn't fraud, it was self-defense. And the birth certificate listed my real name and accurate information. Nothing false about it. But you let Mr. Ashford collect insurance money under false pretenses. Mr. Ashford collected insurance money because he thought he'd successfully murdered me. That's not false pretenses. That's his guilty conscience. The jury loved her. Meredith could see it. Mothers nodding, men uncomfortable but sympathetic. They saw what she was, a survivor, a mother, someone who'd done extraordinary things to protect herself and her child. Blake testified in his own defense. Mistake. His lawyers advised against it. But his ego demanded it. He needed to explain, to justify, to make people understand he wasn't the villain. He was the villain. I loved Meredith, Blake said on the stand, but she changed, became controlling. The pregnancy made her emotional, irrational. I felt trapped. So you decided to kill her? The prosecutor asked. No, I just wanted out. The texts were fantasy, venting. I never actually intended. You paid a mechanic $5,000 to sabotage her brakes. That was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I immediately regretted it. Called him to fix them, but he'd already disappeared. Phone records show no such call. I used a burner phone to protect my privacy. Or to hide your crimes? Blake had no good answer. None of his explanations held up. The prosecution tore them apart piece by piece, showed the jury the real Blake, the liar, the thief, the murderer. The trial lasted 6 weeks. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, embezzlement, wire fraud, conspiracy. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Patterson presiding. A woman in her 60s, mother of 3, grandmother of 7. She looked at Blake with something beyond contempt. "Mr. Ashford," she said, "you attempted to murder your pregnant wife for financial gain. You stole millions from investors who trusted you. You showed no remorse, no accountability, no recognition of the harm you caused. The court sentences you to 22 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole for 15 years. Blake's face crumbled. His lawyers immediately filed appeals. Wouldn't matter. The evidence was too strong. The case too clear. He was going to prison. For a long time. Meredith watched him led away in handcuffs. Felt something shift inside. Not satisfaction. Not quite. But closure. The threat was neutralized. Emma was safe. She could stop looking over her shoulder. "For 2 years, I carried the weight of his crime," she said to Caro that night. "His attempted murder. His betrayal. But standing here now, I understand. It was never mine to carry. It was always his." Emma wasn't a burden Blake needed to eliminate. She was the reason Meredith became unstoppable. And now they could both move forward. Free. 6 months after Blake's sentencing, Meredith sat in her office at Hartley Tech Solutions. The company had undergone complete restructuring. New board members, ethical leadership, transparent accounting, everything Blake's company had pretended to be. The forensic audit revealed the true depth of his crimes. $8.4 million embezzled over 7 years. Not 4.2 like they'd initially thought. He'd been stealing since the beginning. The company Blake built was fraud from the foundation up. But underneath the fraud, there was real value. Good employees, solid technology, honest work happening despite Blake's corruption. Meredith's job was excavating that value, separating the real from the fake. Grant knocked on her office door. "Got a minute? Patricia Ashford is here. She'd like to speak with you." Meredith's stomach tightened. She'd been avoiding Blake's mother for months, processing, deciding how much grace to extend. Patricia had testified against her son. That counted for something. But she'd also raised him, enabled him in small ways for years. "Send her in," Meredith said. Patricia looked older than at the trial, gray hair thinner, face more lined, carrying the weight of a son in prison, a legacy destroyed, a grandchild she'd never met. "Thank you for seeing me," Patricia said. She sat without invitation, tired. "I know you don't owe me anything. I just needed to try one more time." "For what?" "To meet Emma, even just a photograph, something to know she's real, that she's happy. I don't expect a relationship. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need to know." Meredith pulled out her phone, scrolled to a recent picture. Emma at the park, 3 years old now, curly dark hair, green eyes like Meredith's, laughing on a swing. She turned the phone around. "Let Patricia see." Patricia made a small sound, somewhere between sob and gasp. Her hand reached toward the screen, stopped before touching it, as if afraid the image might disappear. "She has my late husband's smile," Patricia whispered. "Blake's father. He passed when Blake was 15. Emma looks just like him." "She's a happy kid," Meredith said. Loves books, hates vegetables, wants to be a paleontologist this week. Last week it was astronaut. She changes her mind constantly." "Thank you." Patricia handed the phone back. "Thank you for showing me, for letting me know she's okay." They sat in silence, shared grief in the space between them. Patricia grieving the son she thought she'd raised. Meredith grieving the marriage she thought she'd had, both mourning illusions. "I ask myself every day where I went wrong," Patricia said. "Was he always this way? Did I miss the signs, make excuses for too long? I keep replaying his childhood, looking for the moment he became a monster. I can't find it." "Maybe there wasn't one moment," Meredith replied. "Maybe it was 1,000 small choices, each one moving him further from empathy, further from accountability. He was a good boy once, sensitive, kind to animals, volunteered at the soup kitchen in high school. And then, college, business school, success. Each achievement made him feel more entitled, more special, like rules were for other people. And I praised him for it, called him ambitious, driven. Never thought to ask what he was driving toward, or what he was willing to sacrifice to get there." Meredith saw the guilt eating Patricia alive, recognized it. She'd carried similar guilt, blaming herself for not seeing Blake's true nature, for being fooled, for trusting. You didn't make him a murderer, Meredith said. He made that choice himself. You can blame yourself for enabling, for making excuses, but not for his core actions. Those belong to him alone. How can you be so calm about it? So rational? I'd be furious. I was furious. For months, years, but fury is exhausting. It eats you from the inside. I chose survival instead. Chose building over burning. Chose Emma over anger. Patricia nodded, understood or pretended to. Hard to tell. Would you consider letting me meet her? Patricia asked. Supervised, brief, just so she knows she has a grandmother. Someone else who loves her. I understand if the answer is no. I'll accept it, but I had to ask. Meredith wanted to say no, wanted to protect Emma from anyone connected to Blake, but she looked at Patricia, saw genuine love, genuine regret, saw a grandmother grieving a grandchild she'd thought was dead for 3 years. I'll think about it, Meredith said. Not a promise, just consideration. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. Patricia left. Meredith sat alone in her office, thought about family, about second chances, about how much grace to extend to people who'd failed but were genuinely trying to do better. Her phone buzzed. Douglas, her father. Lunch today? Want to talk about something? They met at the diner near his house, their usual spot. He ordered his usual burger. She ordered soup. Some rhythms didn't change even when everything else did. Patricia Ashford reached out to me, Douglas said. Asked if I could help her meet Emma. Told her I'd talk to you. Figured you should know she's going through channels instead of showing up unannounced. She came to my office today. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. Meredith stirred her soup, watched steam rise. What do you think, former detective perspective? Is she safe? Safe from what? Kidnapping Emma? Hurting her? No, Patricia's not dangerous. She's just a woman who loved her son to us and is paying the price. But Emma doesn't need that toxicity. Emma needs to know her history, not the sanitized version. The real one. Yes, her father tried to kill you, but her grandmother testified against him. Chose right over blood. That's a lesson worth learning. Meredith considered it. Her father had a point. Emma would have questions someday about her father, his family, her origins. Having Patricia in her life in a limited way might provide answers, context, a connection to the parts of Blake that weren't pure evil. Supervised visits, Meredith decided, public places, time limits. And Emma doesn't know Patricia is her grandmother yet. Not until she's older. For now, she's just Grandma Pat, a friend of Mama's. Douglas nodded approval. Wise middle ground. When did I become the wise one? Around the time you jumped into a freezing river to save yourself and your unborn child. Wisdom born of necessity is still wisdom. They finished lunch, talked about other things, Emma's preschool, the company's restructuring, normal life stuff. The kind of conversations people had when they weren't running for their lives or building cases against murderous exes. Normal felt strange, unfamiliar. But Meredith was learning to embrace it. That evening, she took Emma to the same mountain road where she died. Hadn't been back since the night of the accident. Avoided it, took alternate routes, let fear dictate her path. No more. She drove carefully, Emma in the back seat singing nonsense songs, rain on the windshield, wipers beating rhythm. The curve approached, the one where she'd gone through the guardrail. New guardrail now, stronger. Warning signs, nothing but road and rain and the quiet hum of the engine. Meredith drove through the curve. No panic, no flashback, just a road, just a moment, just rain. She pulled over at a scenic overlook. Looked down at the river, dark and churning. Same water that had tried to kill her. Same water that had carried her to safety. Mama, why we stop? Emma asked from the back seat. Just looking at something, Meredith replied, remembering. Remembering what? How strong Mama is. You very strong, Mama, like superhero. Meredith smiled, pulled back onto the road, drove home. The road that had almost killed her was just a road now. She'd taken its power away by facing it. That night, Emma asleep, Meredith sat at her desk, pulled out a notebook, started writing. Not business plans, not legal strategy, just thoughts. Blake tried to erase me because he couldn't imagine I had value beyond what I provided him. For years, I believed him. Believed my worth came from being useful, being agreeable, being small enough to fit into his life without causing problems. The real theft wasn't the money or the company. It was how he stole my belief in myself, made me doubt my instincts, question my perceptions, apologize for existing. Taking it all back wasn't revenge, it was archaeology. I was just excavating what had always been there, buried under someone else's narrative about my worth. She closed the notebook, felt lighter somehow. The words had been sitting in her chest for years, poison she'd been carrying. Writing them down felt like lancing a wound, letting the infection drain. Her phone buzzed, text from Grant. Board wants quarterly meeting next week, your first official report as CEO. Pressure's on. Pressure, right? She was running a multi-million-dollar company now, had employees depending on her, investors watching every move, the press documenting her every decision. A year ago, that would have terrified her. Now, it felt manageable. She'd survived attempted murder and childbirth in a basement. Corporate politics seemed almost quaint by comparison. She texted back, I'll be ready. And she would be, because she'd spent 2 years becoming someone who could handle anything. Someone who'd rebuilt herself from nothing. Someone who'd turned her would-be murderer's company into something good. Someone unstoppable. Blake's final appeal was denied on a Tuesday morning. Meredith got the call from Grant while driving Emma to preschool. It's over, Grant said. Supreme Court refused to hear the case. Blake serves the full sentence, 15 years minimum before parole eligibility. Okay, Meredith replied. Felt nothing in particular. Not satisfaction, not anger, just acknowledgement. Thanks for letting me know. Emma sang in the back seat, something about dinosaurs and pizza. The concerns of 3-year-olds were beautifully simple. But 2 hours later, Grant called again. Blake's lawyer reached out. He wants to see you, says he has something important to discuss. Won't say what over the phone. Why would I agree to that? Because he's offering to sign away parental rights. Full termination. No contest. He just wants to ask you something first. Meredith's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She'd been fighting for termination of parental rights for months. Blake had refused. Insisted he had a right to his daughter even from prison. Even though Emma didn't know him. Even though he'd tried to kill her before she was born. What does he want? To understand why. His words. He wants to understand why you did all this. I did this because he tried to murder me. I know, but he wants to hear it from you, face to face. One last time. Every instinct said no. Refuse. Block him out completely. She owed Blake nothing. Less than nothing. But he was offering to sign away his rights, to let Emma be fully hers, free from any claim he might make. That was worth one conversation, even a painful one. 30 minutes, Meredith said, supervised, at the prison. I'm not doing this anywhere else. I'll arrange it. The federal prison was 2 hours away. Meredith drove alone, refused Caro's offer to come, refused her father's offer. This was something she needed to do by herself. The prison looked like every prison in every movie. Gray concrete, razor wire, guard towers. The architecture of consequence, of choices made and prices paid. Security processed her. Metal detectors, ID checks, visitor badge. They led her to a meeting room. Small, table bolted to the floor, 2 chairs, camera in the corner. Guard by the door. Blake entered 5 minutes later. Orange jumpsuit, handcuffs, thinner than before. Prison food didn't agree with him, apparently. Hair longer, gray creeping in at the temples. He looked old. Defeated, good. They sat across from each other. The table between them felt like an ocean. Thank you for coming, Blake said. Formal, polite, as if they were business associates meeting for lunch. You have something to ask me. Ask it. I have places to be. Blake took a breath. Why, if you're alive, if you survived, why not just go to the police? Why destroy my company? Take everything? Make sure I lost more than my freedom? Meredith leaned back, studied him, wondered if he genuinely didn't understand or was pretending not to. You tried to kill me, Blake. Me and our daughter. You didn't just commit a crime. You tried to erase me like I was inconvenient, like I didn't matter, like I was disposable. It was a mistake. No, it was a choice. You chose to sabotage my brakes, chose to track my location, chose to collect insurance money, chose to move on with your life while everyone thought I was dead. Those aren't mistakes. They're decisions. But why take the company? Why not just send me to prison? Meredith felt something crack inside. All the calm, all the control. Rage bubbled up from somewhere deep. She'd been pushing it down for so long. Being rational, being measured, but Blake still didn't understand. Because you didn't just try to kill me. Her voice rose. The guard shifted. She lowered it again. Forced calm. You tried to kill what I'd built. My contribution to that company. My father's loan that started it. My years managing our household so you could work late. My belief in us. In you. I wasn't just your wife, Blake. I was your partner. But you never saw me that way. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing. I earned everything. Every part of our life together. I earned through labor and patience and love. And you threw it away like trash. So yes, I took your company. Because it was never just yours. It was ours. And you forfeited your half when you tried to murder your half. Blake was quiet for a long moment. The insurance money, I guess that was yours too. Blood money, I donated it, every penny, to domestic violence shelters, women escaping men like you, men like me. He laughed, bitter. I'm not a monster. I just wanted out, wanted my freedom. Is that so terrible? Wanting out, no. That's divorce, what you did, attempted murder. There's a difference, a pretty significant one. I loved you once. Maybe, or maybe you loved the idea of me, the version that agreed with everything, never questioned, never had needs of her own. That woman was easy to love, but she wasn't real. She was a performance, and I got tired of performing. Blake's face twisted. You were going to ruin everything, the baby, the expenses. You're wanting to be involved in business decisions. I built that company. Me. And you wanted half because we were married? Because I contributed. But you couldn't see that, couldn't imagine I had value beyond being your support system. So you had to destroy me? I didn't destroy you, Blake. You destroyed yourself. I just removed my support. Stopped holding you up, let you fall on your own. The truth of it settled between them. Blake staring at her, really seeing her for maybe the first time. Not the soft girl he'd married, not the victim he'd tried to create, the woman she'd become, strong, unbreakable, beyond his reach. I'll sign the papers, he said quietly. Termination of parental rights. Emma deserves better than me. She deserves you. Meredith pulled the documents from her bag, slid them across the table. Sign. Blake signed. His hand shook, but the signature was clear. Legal. Binding. She's 3 now? He asked. 3.5. Happy? Very. Good. Blake pushed the papers back. That's good. Tell her. He stopped. What could he possibly tell her? What message could a father who tried to kill her mother possibly send? Tell her I hope she has a better life than I did. I'll tell her nothing, Meredith said. When she's old enough to ask, I'll tell her the truth. That her father was a man who valued money more than life. That he made terrible choices and paid the price. That she came from that, but isn't defined by it. She stood, meeting over. Nothing left to say. Meredith. Blake's voice stopped her at the door. She turned, last look, last moment. I am sorry for whatever that's worth. I'm sorry. She met his eyes. Saw something that might be genuine remorse, or might be self-pity. Hard to tell. Didn't really matter. The worst part isn't that you tried to kill me, she said. It's that I loved you, really loved you. The version of you I thought existed, and you were so shallow that man was never real. I mourned someone who never existed. That's the real tragedy. She left, walked through security, out into the parking lot, sat in her car for 20 minutes. Engine off, just breathing, sitting in a parked car, unable to go inside. Except this time she wasn't afraid, she was processing. Letting go of the last piece of Blake she'd been carrying. The need to make him understand. The need for his acknowledgement. The need for him to see what he'd done. He'd never really see it. Would spend 15 years in prison blaming circumstances, bad luck, her overreaction. Anything but his own choices. And that was okay. She didn't need his understanding anymore. Didn't need his apology. Didn't need anything from him at all. The prison door was unlocked all along. She'd been her own warden, believing his lie that she needed him to be complete. Emma didn't save her by being born. She gave her permission to save herself. Meredith started the car, drove home, called Caro on the way. He signed, she said. It's over, completely over. How do you feel? Free. The word surprised her, but it was true. I feel free. That night, she called her father. Dad, I want you to walk me down the aisle again. Not for a man, for myself. A vow to never disappear again. A commitment to stay visible, to stay strong, to stay me. Douglas was quiet. Then, I'd be honored, sweetheart. I'd be honored. 1 year later, Meredith stood in her corner office on the 42nd floor. Hartley Tech Solutions had not just survived, it thrived. Revenue up 40%. Employee satisfaction ratings the highest in the industry, featured in Forbes, Business Week, Tech Today. The magazine on her desk showed the cover. Her face, professional photo, hair longer now, confident smile. The headline, The Woman Who Died to Live, How Meredith Hartley Built an Empire from Ashes. Emma was 4 now. She sat in the reading corner of the office, books scattered around her, marker in hand, drawing what she called very important business documents. The drawings were mostly stick figures and dinosaurs. Meredith planned to frame them all. Mama, can we get pizza for dinner? Emma asked, not looking up from her masterpiece. Sure, baby girl. Pepperoni and dinosaur nuggets. Pizza or nuggets? Pick one. Emma considered this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court justice. Pizza, but can we get nuggets tomorrow? Deal. Grant knocked on the open door. He was COO now, managed daily operations while Meredith focused on strategy and growth. Good partnership, built on mutual respect and shared history. Quarterly report is ready, Grant said. Board meeting tomorrow at 9. How bad? Not bad at all. We exceeded projections. Again. Meredith smiled. The company Blake had built through theft and lies was now legitimate, profitable, growing, proving that success didn't require crime, just hard work and integrity, things Blake had never understood. Oh, and Patricia called, Grant added. Wants to know if Saturday still works for Emma's birthday party. Tell her yes, 11 at the park, cake and presents, very low-key. Patricia had become Grandma Pat over the past year. Supervised visits had gone well. Patricia never overstepped, never mentioned Blake, just focused on being the grandmother Emma deserved. They baked cookies together, read stories, played at the park. Healing wasn't linear, but it was possible. Victoria Hayes appeared behind Grant. Got a minute? Want to discuss the new initiative? Grant left. Victoria entered. Same powerful presence, same sharp intelligence. She'd become more than an investor, a mentor, a friend, family by choice rather than blood. The foundation is ready to launch, Victoria said. She pulled up documents on Meredith's computer. Hartley Tech Women's Fund, providing capital and support for women entrepreneurs escaping difficult situations, especially domestic violence survivors. Legal help, business training, seed funding, everything you needed 2 years ago. Meredith reviewed the materials, comprehensive, well-planned, the kind of support system that could change lives. We should include Sienna, she said. Victoria raised an eyebrow. The mistress? The survivor. She's been running the domestic violence prevention program. Speaks at schools and shelters. Her perspective is valuable, and she's genuinely trying to make amends. Your call. It's your foundation. Our foundation. You're putting up half the capital. Fine, Our foundation, but you're the face of it, the story, the proof that women can survive the impossible. When they worked through details for another hour, Emma eventually abandoned drawing for a nap on the office couch, curled up under Meredith's jacket, thumb in mouth, 3 years old but still baby enough to need comfort. Meredith's phone buzzed. Text from Caro. Dinner tomorrow. Bring Emma. I'm making that pasta thing she likes. Another text. Her father. Found a place for the ceremony. Small community center. Holds 50 people. Perfect for your recommitment thing. Another. Grant. Blake's parole hearing is next month. Required to notify victims. FYI. Meredith read the last message twice. Blake would be eligible for parole after 15 years. Still 11 years away. But the legal system sent notifications early. Prepared victims for potential release. She deleted the message. Felt nothing. Blake was irrelevant now. Whether he served 15 or 22 years didn't matter. He was gone from her life. From Emma's life. Just a cautionary tale about choices and consequences. The real story wasn't about him anyway. It was about what she'd built after he tried to destroy her. Victoria left around 5. Grant stopped by to say goodnight. The office emptied. Just Meredith and sleeping Emma. The city lights below. Tuesday evening. Ordinary. Beautiful. Meredith's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Professional reflex. Miss Hartley, this is Melissa Taylor. I saw the job posting for entry-level software developer. I know my resume has a gap year. I can explain. Come in tomorrow, Meredith interrupted. 10 a.m. We'll talk. Really? Just like that? Bring your portfolio. Be ready to discuss what you're looking for in a workplace culture. We have a lot to offer, but I want to make sure it's the right fit. Thank you so much. I'll be there. They hung up. Meredith pulled up the resume. Melissa Taylor, 24, recent graduate. Gap year explained vaguely as personal circumstances. But Meredith read between the lines, the nervous email. The nervous, the apologetic tone, the fear of being judged. She'd been there. Different circumstances, but same fear. The next morning, Melissa arrived 15 minutes early. Young, nervous, fresh bruises on her forearm, poorly covered with makeup. The kind of bruises that came from someone grabbing too hard, holding too tight. They sat in Meredith's office, Emma at preschool, just the two of them. Before we discuss the position, Meredith said, I want you to know something. If you ever need help, any kind of help, no questions asked, you can come to me. We have resources, lawyers, shelters, support systems, whatever you need. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Tell me why you applied here, specifically here. I read your Forbes article about surviving, about rebuilding. I need to learn how to do that. I'm trying to leave a situation. It's complicated. He's not physically violent often, just sometimes, when he drinks, when I make him angry, but I know it's not safe. I know I need to go. I just don't know how. Meredith saw herself at 24, before Blake, before the marriage, still believing she could fix broken men, still thinking love conquered everything. You don't fix him, Meredith said gently. You save yourself, and we'll help you do that. The job is yours if you want it. Comes with benefits, health insurance, access to our employee assistance program, including legal aid and counseling. You don't have to leave today, but when you're ready, we'll be here. Why are you being so nice to me? You don't even know me. Because someone helped me when I needed it most. And that's how this works. We help each other, we lift each other up. We refuse to let good women disappear. Melissa wiped her eyes, nodded, understood. They discussed the job, hours, responsibilities, pay, professional stuff, but underneath it all, an unspoken understanding. This was more than employment. This was sanctuary. After Melissa left, Meredith sat in her office, thought about circles and cycles, how trauma could perpetuate or heal depending on what you did with it. She'd chosen healing, chosen to take her pain and transform it into protection for others. That evening, family dinner at Caro's apartment, the same basement apartment where Meredith had hidden, where Emma had been born. They'd made it a tradition. First Tuesday of every month, family dinner, Caro, Douglas, Patricia, Victoria, Grant, Sienna sometimes, Emma running between them all, collecting love from every corner. I hired someone today, Meredith said over pasta. Young woman, similar situation to mine. Not exactly the same, but close enough. Foundation's first success before it even launches, Victoria said. That's what I'm building, Meredith replied. Not just a company, a system, where women who need help can find it, where survival is possible, where rebuilding is the expectation, not the exception. Patricia spoke up. Blake called from prison, asked how you were doing, if you were happy. The table went silent. Blake's name still had that effect. A grenade rolled into peaceful spaces. What did you tell him? Meredith asked. That you're thriving, that Emma is perfect, that you've built something extraordinary from what he tried to destroy, that you're happy, really, genuinely happy. And how did he take it? He cried, said he was proud of you, which is the most delusional thing I've ever heard. As if he had anything to do with your success, as if his attempted murder was somehow motivational. Everyone laughed. Dark humor, the kind that came from surviving dark things. Emma climbed into Meredith's lap. Mama, what's thriving? It means doing really well, baby. Being healthy and happy and growing. Like my tomato plant at school? Exactly like your tomato plant. Are we thriving, Mama? Meredith looked around the table. Her father's weathered face. Caro's fierce loyalty. Victoria's sharp intelligence. Patricia's quiet redemption. Grant's steady friendship. Sienna's genuine attempts to atone. And Emma. Perfect Emma. Asking big questions with her child's clarity. Yes, baby girl, we're thriving. Emma nodded, satisfied. Went back to her pasta. The complicated adult world simplified to tomato plants and being okay. After dinner, Meredith drove home. Her apartment, her space, not hiding anymore. Her name on the lease, her mail in the box, her life fully visible. She put Emma to bed, read 3 stories, answered 14 questions about dinosaurs, finally got her settled, sleeping peacefully, safe, loved, protected. Meredith sat at her desk, pulled out the notebook where she wrote thoughts, added one more entry. A year ago, Blake asked why I took everything from him. Today, I finally have the complete answer. I didn't take anything from him. He threw it all away when he chose murder over divorce, chose violence over honesty, chose his ego over everything real. What I did was salvage. I took the pieces of the company he'd broken and fixed them. I took my life he'd tried to end and rebuilt it. I took my daughter he'd dismissed and raised her to be fearless. The only thing I took from Blake was his power over me, and that was never his to begin with. That was always mine. I just had to remember how to claim it. He's serving 22 years. I'm building a legacy. We're both prisoners and free people, just in opposite ways. She closed the notebook, turned off the desk lamp, looked out at the city lights, thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago. Pregnant, scared, cleaning compulsively to manage anxiety, checking her phone obsessively for her husband's approval. That woman was gone, died in a river and was reborn on its banks. The woman who remained was stronger, scarred but whole, broken in places but put back together with gold in the cracks. The Japanese art of kintsugi, making broken things more beautiful by highlighting the breaks. Her phone buzzed, email notification. The Forbes article had gone viral. Interview requests pouring in, speaking engagements, podcast invitations. Everyone wanted to know her story. Part of her wanted to refuse. Stay private, keep her head down. But another part, the part that remembered feeling alone and scared, knew she had to speak, had to tell her story so other women would know survival was possible. She replied to 3 interview requests, declined 2 podcast invitations, accepted a speaking engagement at a women's business conference. Balance, visibility with boundaries, presence without overexposure. The world didn't need to know everything, but it needed to know enough. Enough to help women recognize danger signs. Enough to encourage leaving before it was too late. Enough to prove that dying wasn't the only way to escape. A text from Victoria. Board meeting moved to 10 a.m. tomorrow. Hope that's okay. Also proud of you. For everything. Meredith smiled, texted back, see you at 10, And thanks for everything you've done, for believing in me when I barely believed in myself. Another text. Caro. Emma forgot her stuffed dinosaur. I'll drop it off before preschool tomorrow. Another. Her father. Ceremony venue is confirmed. 2 weeks. You ready for this? Ready. The question echoed. Was she ready to stand in front of 50 people and vow to never disappear again? To commit to herself in a way she'd never committed before? To claim her space and her voice and her power? Yes, she was ready. The final scene played out in her mind. The ceremony, not a wedding, a recommitment to herself, her father walking her down the aisle, not giving her away, giving her back to herself, standing at the front, speaking vows she'd written, promises to stay visible, stay strong, stay true. Emma would be there, flower girl, scattering petals and questions in equal measure. Understanding only that Mama was happy, that this day was important, that love came in many forms. Blake wouldn't be there, wouldn't even know it was happening. His absence was the point. She was doing this without him, despite him, because of him in some ways, but not for him, never for him again. The next morning, Meredith walked into the boardroom at Hartley Tech Solutions, her first all-female board meeting. Patricia presenting on HR initiatives, Sienna managing legal structure for the new foundation, Caro running the medical partnership with local hospitals, Victoria providing capital and expertise. And Blake? He wasn't even mentioned, wasn't relevant to any discussion. His company had become something new, something better, something that actually helped people instead of exploiting them. The meeting ran smoothly, professional, efficient, decisions made, strategies approved, no drama, no power plays, just competent women doing excellent work. Meredith watched it all and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not in taking Blake down. That was just necessary cleanup. Pride in building something from nothing. In taking broken pieces and creating something whole. After the meeting, she stood alone in the boardroom. Same room where she'd confronted Blake 3 years ago. Same chair where he'd sat in handcuffs. Same windows looking out at the same city. But everything was different. The name on the door, the faces around the table, the purpose driving the work. Different, better, real. She walked to her office. Emma would be out of preschool soon. They'd get pizza, maybe go to the park, normal Tuesday things, the kind of life she'd fought for, the kind of peace she'd earned. Her phone showed a notification. Melissa Taylor had accepted the job offer. Started next week. Another woman saved. Another life rebuilt. The cycle continued. Meredith smiled, thought about the young woman at her interview. The fear in her eyes. The hope struggling to survive. She'd give Melissa what Victoria had given her. A chance, resources, belief that survival was possible, and Melissa would do the same for someone else someday. That was the real victory, not defeating Blake, creating a chain of survival that would outlast them all. She grabbed her keys, headed to the elevator. The doors opened. The same elevator Blake had taken down to federal agents 3 years ago. But Meredith was going down to pick up her daughter, to get pizza, to live her life. As the elevator descended, she caught her reflection in the polished metal, saw the woman she'd become. Not the soft girl Blake had married, not the terrified mother giving birth in a basement. The woman who'd survived it all and built an empire from the ashes. The doors opened at ground level. She walked out into the lobby. Her employees waved, called greetings. She was known here, respected here, not as Blake's victim, as Meredith Hartley, CEO, founder, survivor, leader. She walked out into afternoon sunshine, cars passing, people walking, the world turning, and Meredith Hartley right in the middle of it, visible, unafraid, alive. The boardroom fell silent when she walked in. That's how this story started, with silence and shock and the impossible made real. But the story ended with noise, with Emma's laughter, with board meetings full of women's voices, with the hum of a company doing good work, with life lived loudly and unapologetically. Blake had tried to make her disappear, but you can't erase someone who refuses to vanish. and Meredith Hartley had never been very good at doing what she was told. She drove to Emma's preschool. Her daughter ran out, backpack bouncing, face lit up with joy at seeing her mother. "Mama, I made you a picture. It's a dinosaur eating pizza." "That's perfect, baby girl. Absolutely perfect." They drove home, singing off-key to the radio, making plans for dinner, discussing very important four-year-old concerns, the kind of ordinary magic that made surviving worthwhile. That evening, Emma asleep, Meredith stood on her balcony. The city stretched out below, lights coming on as darkness fell. Each light a life, a story, a person making choices and living consequences. She'd made her choices, survived her consequences, built something beautiful from something terrible, and tomorrow she'd do it all again. Not because she had to prove anything to Blake, but because she'd proven something to herself. She was enough, had always been enough. Blake's inability to see her value was his failure, not hers. The only surprise you need is the one you give yourself. And Meredith Hartley had surprised herself every single day for 3 years. No reason to stop now. She walked inside, closed the door, locked it. Safe, secure, home. The woman who died in that river 3 years ago was gone. In her place stood someone stronger. Someone who'd learned that survival was just the beginning, that thriving was the real victory, that becoming the person you needed when you had no one else was the ultimate power. Meredith Hartley was that person now, for herself, for Emma, for every woman who'd ever felt disposable, for every voice that had been silenced, for every life that had been diminished. She walked into the boardroom and every woman there knew the only surprise you need is the one you give yourself. And she'd given herself the best surprise of all, a life worth living, a future worth building, a self worth believing in. Blake was in prison. Meredith was free, and that, in the end, was all the justice she'd ever needed. Meredith's story didn't end when Blake went to prison. It ended when she stopped letting him take up space in her head, when she realized that surviving him was just the beginning. Thriving without him was the real victory. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt underestimated, dismissed, or erased, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What moment hit you hardest? Was it when she jumped into the river? When she walked into that boardroom? Or when she finally chose peace over revenge? And here's the thing about stories like this. They need to be heard. If you know someone who needs to hear that survival is possible, that rebuilding is real, that you can become stronger in the broken places, share this with them. Click that share button, send it to a friend, post it in your group. Hit the like button if Meredith's journey inspired you. Subscribe if you want more stories about real people facing impossible odds and winning anyway. Because these aren't just stories. They're proof that we're all more powerful than we think. Drop a comment with one word that describes how you're feeling right now. Just one word. I read every single one. And remember Meredith's final lesson. The only surprise you need is the one you give yourself. What surprise will you give yourself today? I'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay strong, stay visible, stay you.